Welcome, everyone, once again to another episode of Iron Age Marketing. I am, as always, Nicky P. My guest today is Christine Erickson, wife, and I can't remember what you told me already, but we'll say purveyor of propaganda for author Devon Erickson. How are we doing today?
I am doing well. Busy times here, getting ready for the audiobook Kickstarter and have a friend coming over for dinner and just lots of things. But excited to talk with you here tonight.
Awesome. Well, since you mentioned it, everyone's going to be asking, what is for dinner?
I just wanted a one-pot meal, so I'm doing some beef stroganoff. We get our cows by the half cow.
That's the way to do it.
Right. So I took some sirloin out of the freezer last night, and that's coming to temperature in the oven right now. Have the onions and mushrooms cooked, and when this is over, should be a quick sear the beef, add the lebna.
So that's the key to marketing right there, folks, is meals that you don't have to do much with. You just set them and forget them, right?
Yes. While still putting perhaps too much work and thought into it, because if you're just going with the, what's that thing? It's not shake and bake, but it's like that, just one of those boxes of like, here's your thing. Hamburger helper. Yes. I mean, it works-ish, but put a little more thought into it.
Well, every college kid that's listening to this just freaked out, so I don't want to put any more thought into it. But anyways, well, thank you so much for joining us today, Christine. Why don't you give us a little bit of your background, a little bit about Devon's background, and kind of where you guys fit into this whole modern publishing world?
Yeah. That's a fun story. So first, me, Christine Erickson. I'm actually a software engineer by trade. But the way I came to this is, I have a little bit of sales in my background. Back in high school, I was the minister of propaganda for my high school's literary magazine. Amusingly enough, I didn't actually read the magazine because high schoolers write awful things. I was uninterested. But the getting people to submit their poems and stories and art to it, and then getting people to purchase this delightful magazine, I had a lot of fun with that. And then in college, I did some working with the school newspaper, because at an engineering school, the standards for working on the school newspaper are phenomenally low. And then, like sold raffle tickets at a sorority event. I don't know. And so many, many years later, when my husband, decided, hey, I'm going to write a novel. And the way he came to that is, he'd always been sort of good at writing fun little flash fiction bits and stuff. And during lockdowns, he had a little bit of time on his hands, and he watched Brandon Sanderson's YouTube lectures on writing, and something just clicked. Something Devon says a lot is nobody can tell you how to write. They can only tell you how they write. And Sanderson's process and Devon's process are very similar. And so listening to him talk really just made how do I go from a compelling, interesting little scene to how do I craft a long, compelling, satisfying narrative. Devon sat down for 9 months, started writing a book, and didn't stop, and then had a manuscript, which then went through a very thorough editing, beta reading, etc. process. And he was a little worried there near the end, because he had something that he was very proud of, something that he knew was good, and he was afraid no one would ever read it. And so I said, no, I too know that what you wrote is amazing, and I am going to make sure that the world takes note. And so after swearing that, it was then my job to make sure that people had the opportunity to connect with his fantastic novel, Theft of Fire, Orbital Space #1. And things sort of progressed from there, and now he's got well over 700 ratings on Amazon. He's got a good number of sales. We don't really release hard sales numbers. I have a lot of fun at science fiction conventions tabling. We just got back from one. It didn't have the best attendance, but we sold every book but one. And as Steve Jackson pointed out, that's the best number to sell, because if you sell out, you're kicking yourself for not bringing more books. So,
That is very true. What did Devon do before he was a writer, I guess?
primarily, most recently, and primarily a software engineer as well. He's a little more on the embedded stuff.
Okay, so it's a family business.
I mean, no, but just similar fields. He's done various, a little more lower level, like closer to the metal engineering than me. Has some of his engineering is classified stuff that I can't really talk about. Some of it's AI related, some of it's commerce related. Just of some of it industrial automation. So yeah, just various engineering.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated when engineers start writing, because it's not generally what you expect people to do from that headspace.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who say that. But I think for science fiction, there's a surprising amount of overlap, because in both cases, especially with technology, it's, you have this thought, and basically out of pure imagination, you're able to make it exist in the world in a way that, say, civil engineering, you still need to obey the laws of physics. But for software engineering and with writing, you just have this idea that you then make either live inside the computer with the right combination of words, or live inside people's minds with the right combination of words. And so I think it's a surprisingly natural transition.
Well, certainly for the science fiction community, obviously he's in good company. Asimov was a scientist. One of the up and comers I like a lot, James Craig. He's an engineer. So within that particular genre, there's definitely some overlap. Now, what's Theft of Fire? Like, what kind of science fiction is it? Tell me a little bit more about this book.
Of course. So I'll do my little pitch that I sort of put together this weekend for selling it at the table. Theft of Fire is the story of a down on his luck asteroid miner. He's hit rock bottom. He's turned to piracy to pay the bills. Things are not going great. And in swoops a gene-twisted Martian heiress to blackmail him, to send them onto a suicide mission to the frozen edge of the solar system. And he does not want to do this, so he fights like hell to stop it, until he finds out what's out there and what exactly this heist she's trying to pull is. Then things get really interesting. It has action. It has a little bit of romance. It has a delightful third character that I'm not going to tell you anything about because she's a surprise, but also she's on the cover. She exists. It's a character-driven hard sci-fi. If you liked The Martian and its sort of irreverent grit, if you liked The Expanse and its solar system spanning colonization without laser swords or faster than light travel, and if you sort of miss the golden age of science fiction, then this is the novel for you, and you're just going to be in for a really, really good time.
So how much time did you spend on your SEO and crafting the particular words for your copywriting for that?
That just sort of came together over the weekend when I was tabling. So that's not like written down anywhere yet.
Well, the reason I ask is because just in like your quick initial pitch within the first paragraph, I knew it was a hard sci-fi book without you even having to tell me. Just off of a few keywords.
I think in the Amazon keywords, I think I have asteroid mining. I think I have, I don't remember what's, like something like gene twisted. It kind of, it's certainly evocative of a certain kind of story.
Yeah. The minute you say asteroid mining, I'm like, oh, okay. So we're talking hard sci-fi, the old stuff, the good stuff. And obviously you name drop The Expanse. So that's gonna place it in good company. Now I'm going to imagine, this will be my personal question here. So I'm imagining Devon probably would not be a fan of the politics of the guys that actually write The Expanse.
I don't think either of us are particularly familiar with them. I actually wasn't aware that S.A. Corey was two individuals until like 6 months ago. But Devon is a libertarian, and his novel was actually a finalist, excuse me, for the Libertarian Futurist Society's Prometheus Award recently. Um, but he is very against books being sort of didactic or being used as a platform to tell the reader what to think. So, of course, his libertarian views come through in the story and the society he instructs, but there's no Ayn Rand, here's my pages of why objectivism is correct lectures.